That's right. Many people have expressed concern and even distrust about the COVID-19 vaccine. Some saying it's been released too fast and they don't plan on taking it. But what if it's made mandatory to do everyday activities? A law professor who specializes in health law weighed in.
It's well-settled law that the government can require you to be immunized.
David Orentlicker is a law professor at UNLV and the director of the school's health law program. He says a 1905 Supreme Court ruling declared the government can mandate immunizations if there's a public health crisis.
Exceptions have to be made if the immunization would pose a health risk.
David says a vaccine requirement would likely be linked to certain activities like school or work, and getting around it won't be easy, but there are ways. One, a health exemption, which would require a medical condition and a doctor's note.
If there were an ingredient that would provoke a serious allergic reaction, that would be a reason.
Another exemption?
There are federal statutory protections. So if you have a religious objection.
David says religious exemptions don't always apply to government-mandated vaccines. However, at least 44 states, including Nevada, allow religious exemptions, even though they aren't required to. But what about people without health or religious objections who still don't want to take the vaccine for personal reasons? There are only about 16 states that allow personal belief exemptions. However, Nevada isn't one of them.
A broad mandate to immunize everybody would be an unusual kind of thing to happen.
The professor notes that the goal isn't to vaccinate 100% of the population. Only 70 to 80% need it in order to accomplish herd immunity. And when it comes to those people outside of the healthcare industry or senior living homes, he says being forced to take it isn't likely.
Given the shortage of vaccine right now, I think we're going to be overwhelmed with people who want it.
Yeah, now last week when Governor Sisolak announced that they could be releasing the vaccine here in the Valley as soon as the end of December, he also said they have a team specifically dedicated to making sure that the vaccine is safe before it's distributed. For News 3, I'm Gabby Hart reporting.
$345,000. That's now the median home sales price, up 12% from this time last year. There's a huge demand and little supply, but locking in that low mortgage payment is pushing more people to make the big purchase now rather than later.
It's sort of a catch-22 because you don't want to put your house on the market because you don't know if you can find another place to replace that with.
With only 3,700 homes up for grabs here in the Las Vegas Valley, inventory is at a historic low with just under a 1-month supply. Las Vegas Realtors President Tom Blanchard says 70% of homes are selling within 30 days, with multiple offers on the table.
The guy with the most money wins.
But despite job loss and financial hardship because of the pandemic, foreclosures and short sales only account for less than 1% of property sales in November, compared to 2% last year.
The government's done a great job making sure that those that had an issue were able to get forbearances, right? So only if you didn't talk to anybody, only if you stayed in your shell and didn't communicate with your lender, are you going to end up being in that foreclosure issue.
For loan officers like Norbert Jerfy, the refinance business is booming too.
My refinance volume represents over 60%. And that's usually not the case. Normal pipeline that I would carry would be about 90% purchase business, maybe 10% refinance.
And Jerfy says that's thanks to record low rates.
The 30-year fixed conventional rates are right in the mid to high twos. And then when you get into some of the government rates like FHA loans and VA loans, they're in the mid to low twos, just depending on the client's overall credit.
That's right. Good evening, everybody. We got an update not only on that building behind me, but what's underground, too. It is now 98% finished. It's so finished. What's going up now are the finishing touches. The parking lot, the landscaping, the signs. It now looks like the first show that will put this nearly $1 billion, 1.4 million square foot jewel through its paces is the Big World of Concrete, now scheduled for June. Steve Hill heads up the LVCVA.
So that will be the first that utilizes multiple halls, requires people to move back and forth between those halls. And we feel pretty confident at this point that show will happen.
This morning's socially distant LVCVA board meeting offered news on a few fronts. Monday, the LVCVA gets official occupancy for the building. And what an asset it will be, says board member Lawrence Weekley.
The expansion is going to mean everything to shows from around the world that's been wanting to come to Vegas, but wanted to make sure that we could accommodate their every needs.
It would have been bustling within weeks, but COVID-19 had other plans. Hill tells me until this spring, our convention campus will be limping along. World of Concrete will be a spark plug, vaccine willing, to bring us back to something like normal. And not just above ground, underground. Elon Musk's convention center People Mover is almost finished too. Just over a year ago, we had the groundbreaking. Now that site is paved over. The action's underneath.
They're actually starting to test cars in the system.
It's designed to carry a minimum of 4,400 conventioneers an hour. Besides a cool ride, it comes with a light show too. In the meantime, we also learned the LVCVA will close this week on its $24 million purchase of the monorail. Hill tells me he expects the system to reopen around Memorial Day. All depends on COVID fading, but if it does, says board member Larry Brown,
be it World of Concrete in June, that could send a signal around the world that Vegas is back.
In Las Vegas, Jeff Gillen, News 3.